were a child, what were some of your other goals other than being a policeman?
Well, I wanted to leave Alabama. One thing was to get out of Alabama. I just thought it was so. I wanted to go to school. I wanted to go to college. I was the first one in my family to finish high school, the first one to go off to college. As a matter of fact, when I was a young child with some of my first cousins, sisters, and brothers, I grew up on a farm. We had a lot of trees, and with some of my cousins, we tried to saw down a big pine tree, a huge pine tree. And somehow I was very young, so we had this dream, this idea that we would take the big part of the pine tree and we would make wheels. And somehow these wheels and the tree, we would make a bus. And we would roll out of Alabama. And so my idea was, I know it sounds silly, but it was to roll out of Alabama. Now some of you know as a young child, in addition, I used to raise chickens. And my first nonviolent protests were protesting against my mother and father. We didn't want to kill some of the chickens that we had raised. And sometimes I wouldn't eat, just wouldn't eat any of the chicken. And I would preach to these chickens and try to baptize some of them, and it just didn't work.
Are you considering running for the president of the United States?
I'm not considering running for a president of the United States. We have a wonderful president, a young man that I admire and love, but I'm going to do what I can to help. I will continue to run for Congress. I'm running for re-election to the Congress from the 5th District of Georgia.
Do you feel that racism still exists in today's society?
I do feel that racism still exists in our society today. We've come a great distance. We've made a lot of progress, but we still have a great distance to travel before we lay down the burden of race. I think what has happened in states like Arizona, what has happened to immigrant population, whether people from Central South America, whether they're from Europe or from Africa, wherever, I think certain people, certain groups, and certain individuals, not just African American, but others have been put down because of their race or because of their color. And that's not right. That's not fair. And every day we have to stand up and speak out against racism and try to change it and make things better.
Can we ask you just a few more questions?
Yes,
We'll stop
yes,
the question
yes.
section.
Why was it important for you to participate in the civil rights movement?
It was important. As I said, I didn't like segregation. I didn't like racial discrimination. I didn't like seeing those signs that said colored waiting, white waiting, colored men, colored boy, white boys, colored girls, white girls. I didn't like it. And I remember when I was 16 years old with some of my brothers and sisters and first cousins, we went down to the public library in the little town of Troy, Alabama, trying to get library cards, trying to check out some books. And we were told by the librarian that the library was for whites only and not for colored. So I never went back to the library until July 5th, 1998 for a book signing of my book, Walking with the Wind. And hundreds of blacks and white citizens showed up. And I signed a lot of books. We had food, we had something to drink. And at the end of the program, they gave me a library card. So I just felt that segregation was wrong. We had to go to the schools that were overcrowded, and we had the used books and the broken down buses. And I didn't like it. I had to do something. When you listen to Martin Luther King Jr., you were compelled to get involved. When I heard him speaking on the radio, I felt like he was speaking directly to me, saying, John Robert Lewis, you can do something. You too can do something. So he inspired me. He influenced me.
What was life like living in Troy, Alabama?
life living in Troy, Alabama. Now, I didn't live in the little town of Troy. I lived outside of Troy. I lived on a farm. But it was not easy. It was hard work, and I didn't mind doing the hard work. Sometimes you have to work out in the hot sun, picking cotton, gathering peanuts, pulling corn, and you got so little money for it. And it was not easy. It was very difficult. And I saw my mother and my father working so hard, and they got so little reward for their work. But they raised 10 children. I have 6 brothers and 3 sisters, and I'm very thankful that we all survived.
What events in your life caused you to want to be in freedom fighter?
More than anything else, I wanted to help make things better. I got tired of seeing signs and saying, no, you cannot go there, you cannot go there. I remember when I was 11 years old, in 1951, I think I was going to the 6th grade. And one summer, with my uncle and aunt and some first cousins, we were traveling from rural Alabama, from Troy to Buffalo. And I remember my mother staying up almost all night one night, and maybe some during the next day, cooking chicken, frying chicken, and wrapping the chicken in, we didn't have, I guess it's wax paper, cellophane paper, because we didn't have aluminum foil there, and cooking cakes and pies and wrapping it and putting it in brown bags and shoe boxes, because we couldn't stop at any restaurant. We couldn't stop along the way, so we had to have something to eat. And then when I got to Buffalo, I saw blacks and white people eating together in the same restaurant, and it just changed my mind. And I knew that I can do something to make things different, so that's why I got involved. So I knew it was a possibility that I would get arrested and go to jail, that I would be beaten, that I could die. But it would have been part of the price that I would pay to help make things better for others.
As a U.S. Congressman, what are you most proud of?
Well, I'm very proud that as a member of Congress during the past almost 24 years, that I've been able to get resources to help in the area of education, health care. I believe that health care is a right. It's not a privilege, and that everybody, it doesn't matter the zip code you live in and what part of a city, a county, or state you live, that everybody should have health care. So I'm proud that I stood up and spoke up and fought to help the president get health care passed. But I'm also proud of another piece of legislation that I got passed. It took me 15 years to do it. But one day when you come to Washington, on the mall near the Washington Monument, there's going to be this unbelievable museum. They're going to be called the National African American Museum of History and Culture. They're going to tell the whole story, the whole struggle of people of color from the time that our forefathers and our foremothers came from Africa as slaves. Everything will be there. And it should be ready in the next 4 or 5 years. But it's going to be built. Half of the money will come from the federal government, and half of the money will come from the American people. But it's going to be built right on the mall. Matter of fact, when I flew in from Washington last night, I went to a reception where Delta Airlines made their last contribution of $1 million to help build the King Memorial. When I was flying back to Washington late last Sunday, I flew over the Kennedy Center. It's a performing arts center right in Washington, and also the Lincoln Memorial. And I looked down, flying down the Potomac River, and I saw it looked like it's coming up out of the ground, the King Memorial.